This is not just the fastest McLaren ever made. This is not just another hybrid hypercar with a big horsepower number to flex on the internet. This is the car McLaren themselves are calling the real supercar. The one car that finally answers a question we have been asking for over 10 years. What comes after P1? For a decade, that space at the very top of McLaren has been empty, and now it has been filled. This is a McLaren W1, the 2027 Ultimate Series hypercar, and it might just be the last great hybrid monster of its kind. To understand why this car matters so much, you have to go back. In 1992, McLaren built the F1, a naturally aspirated V12, 3 seats, gold-lined engine bay, a car that is still considered by many to be the greatest analog supercar ever built. It was not about numbers, it was about feeling. Then in 2013, they did again. They built the P1, the first car in the Holy Trinity alongside the Porsche 918 and the Ferrari LaFerrari. It was the first time they brought real Formula One KRS hybrid tech to the road. It was violent, it was technical, it was the future. And since the last P1 rolled out of the factory, every single McLaren fan has asked the same thing. When is the next one coming? We got the Senna, we got the Speedtail, we got the Elva. All incredible machines, but none of them were the true successor. None of them were the one. The W1 is the one, and the name itself tells you everything. W stands for World Championship Mindset. That is what McLaren told us. It is a car born from 30 years of winning Formula One World Championships. It is not named after track. It is named after that winning mentality. So let's peel back that insane bodywork and start with what is underneath. Because the engineering in this car is just on another planet. Forget what you think you know about McLaren's V8. This is not a retuned version of the engine from the 750S or the Senna. This is completely from scratch. It is called the MHP8, an all-new 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 that was designed specifically to be part of a hypercar hybrid system. On its own, without any electric help, this engine makes 916 horsepower. Just stop and think about that. 916 horsepower from a V8. That is the most powerful engine McLaren has ever put in a road car, and it does it with a power density of 230 horsepower per liter. It revs all the way to 9,200 revolutions per minute, which for a turbo engine is just ridiculous. Most turbo engines give up at 7,500 or 8,000. This one keeps screaming. It keeps pulling. It sounds like a proper race engine because it basically is. And then you add the electric side. Instead of using a heavy, big battery for long electric range, McLaren did the exact opposite. They built a tiny, ultra-lightweight, ultra-powerful hybrid system directly inspired by Formula One. The electric motor is a radial flux motor. It is incredibly compact. It weighs just 20 kilograms, but it makes 342 horsepower instantly. No lag. Zero. The battery that powers it is just 1.4 kilowatt hours. It is so small that it only gives you about 1.6 miles, or about 2 kilometers of pure electric range. And that is intentional. This is not a car you buy to silently cruise through the city. This system exists for one reason only, to fill in the torque gap and make this thing accelerate like it has been fired out of a cannon. When you put them together, the numbers are just stupid. You get combined output of 1,258 horsepower and 988 pound-feet of torque. If you are in Europe, they advertise it as 1,275 horsepower and 1,340 newton-meters of torque. And every single one of those horses goes to the rear wheels only. No all-wheel drive safety net here. Just pure rear-wheel drive madness through an all-new 8-speed dual-clutch transmission and electronic differential that has been designed to handle that much power. So what does that feel like? The figures will make your head spin. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 2.7 seconds. But that does not tell the story. 0 to 124 miles per hour, 200 kilometers per hour, takes just 5.8 seconds. That is quicker than a McLaren 765 LT does 0 to 60, 0 to 186 miles per hour, 300 kilometers per hour, takes just 12.7 seconds. To put that in perspective, a Bugatti Chiron needs more than 13 seconds to do the same. It is the fastest accelerating road car McLaren has ever made by a huge margin, and it tops out at an electronically limited 217 miles per hour. They limited it because if they didn't, the aero would generate so much downforce it would start to be too much for the road tires. And that brings us to the real secret of the W1. Anyone can make a car with 1,200 horsepower. The hard part is making it usable, making it corner, making it stick to the ground. And the W1 is probably the most advanced aero machine ever put on the road. It all starts with a new aerocell monocoque. This is a full carbon fiber tub made from pre-preg carbon fiber, the same stuff they use in Formula One. The seats are actually part of the monocoque itself. They are fixed. You don't adjust the seat, you adjust the pedals and the steering wheel which come to you. That saves weight. It makes the car stiffer, and it makes you feel like you are part of the car. And weight is the big story here. Even with all the hybrid stuff, the batteries, the motors, the big turbochargers, this entire car weighs just 1,399 kilograms dry. That is around 3,084 pounds. That is lighter than a Porsche 911 GT3. It is almost 200 kilograms lighter than a Ferrari SF90. In the world of modern hypercars, where everything weighs over 1,600 or 1,700 kilos because of batteries, being under 1,400 kilos is a superpower. Now look at the body. Every single line, every vent, every slit has a purpose. At the front, you have an active front wing system built into the hood and bumper. At the back, you have the most insane rear wing ever fitted to a McLaren. It is an active long-tail wing that extends backward by almost 300 millimeters when you put the car into race mode. The whole car actually lowers itself. The front drops by 37 millimeters. The rear drops by 17 millimeters. The front wing activates. The rear wing extends, and you get a full ground effect system underneath the car. In this race mode, the W1 can generate up to 1,000 kilograms of downforce. Let that sink in. At high speed, the air is pressing down on this car with more force than the car itself weighs. It could theoretically drive upside down on the ceiling of a tunnel. It has real DRS, drag reduction system, just like Lewis Hamilton's Formula One car. You press a button on the steering wheel, the rear wing flattens, and you get a massive boost in straight line speed. The suspension is just as crazy. It has what McLaren calls Race Active Chassis Control 3. It is a fully active hydraulic suspension with interconnected dampers. No traditional anti-roll bars. It can keep the car perfectly flat in corners. It can absorb bumps on the road. And in race mode, it stiffens up to become a full race car. The brakes are carbon ceramic, obviously, but they are the most advanced McLaren has ever made, with Formula One-derived cooling ducts. Inside, if you are expecting a luxury car, you will be disappointed. And that is a good thing. This is not a Bentley. This is not a car with 10 screens and massaging seats. You open those iconic butterfly doors. You climb over the big carbon sill. You drop down into that fixed carbon seat. Everything you touch is either carbon fiber Alcantara or aluminum. The steering wheel is small, squarish, covered in buttons like a real F1 wheel. There is a small digital instrument cluster that is attached to the steering column. So it moves when you adjust the wheel. There is a second small touchscreen for climate and a few controls, but that is it. The focus is forward. The visibility is actually much better than the old P1. McLaren listened to owners who complained about that. And yes, you still get a little storage space behind the seats, enough for 2 helmets, because this is a car that is meant to be driven on track. So who gets to own one? Almost no one. McLaren is only making 399 cars in the entire world. And I have to tell you, all 399 were sold out long before the car was even shown to the public. You couldn't just walk in with money. You had to be invited by McLaren. You had to be a loyal collector. The starting price is £2 million in the UK, which is about $2.1 million in the US, and that is before taxes and before you go to McLaren Special Operations. And every single owner will go to MSO. They will spend another $300,000 or $400,000 on custom paint, exposed carbon, custom stitching. So in reality, this is a $2.5 million hypercar. And when you start it, that is when you realize what this thing really is. You press the start button, the V8 barks into life, but it is supported by that electric whine. At low speeds, it is surprisingly quiet. You can pull away silently on electric power if you want to sneak out of your house at 6 a.m., but press the throttle past 50%, and the V8 takes over. The turbo spool, the electric motor adds its instant punch, and it is just relentless. There is no pause, no lag, no waiting for power. It is just instant, endless, terrifying acceleration all the way to 9,200 revolutions per minute. And then it slams into the next gear and does it all over again. This is why the W1 matters. We are living in the final chapter of the pure combustion hypercar. The next generation after this will be fully electric. Ferrari is already working on their electric hypercar. McLaren will have to follow. So the W1 is that last celebration. It is the car that takes everything McLaren learned from the F1, from dominating Formula One, from the P1, and puts it into one package. It is not trying to be the most comfortable. It is not trying to be the most efficient. It is trying to be the most visceral, the most exciting, the most raw, ultimate McLaren ever. The question I want to leave you with is this. We have McLaren W1 with 1,258 horsepower and rear-wheel drive. We have the new Ferrari F80 with even more power, but all-wheel drive. We have the Aston Martin Valkyrie that is basically a Formula One car for the road. Which philosophy do you believe in? The lightweight rear-drive, analog-feeling monster from Woking, or the all-wheel drive tech monsters from Maranello? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button and subscribe, because we are going to be talking a lot more about the W1 when the first customer cars start hitting the track next year.